Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down those unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. We are kicking it here a little old school in one of the setups that you may recognize if you are an OG of watching the show here. And I'm very excited to talk about something that isn't so old school today with my man, also Brandon Webb. We're gonna talk about AI in construction today, my friend.
Absolutely.
It has been a wild world, like the last few years, especially in the AI space. When I first met you, I think you cold called me and we had connected because you were building or on your way to building a really unique program that was going to solve a problem for a lot of specifically commercial construction companies that were looking to bid on public tenders and looking at a problem that needed to be solved. You were on your way of doing a great job of solving that with even the prototypes that I saw. But even in that, like, how fast has the world changed? Because you've even pivoted from that, because at one point there was this big push and you saw this pipeline that could be filled and these problems that could be solved. But with technology moving so quickly, all of a sudden this like very, very cool thing almost became obsolete like that. I don't want to say it's obsolete. Maybe I'm downplaying that a bit, but how quickly are things moving these days, man? What's going on in your world?
No, it kind of is obsolete because I ventured out to start a SaaS company, right? So my whole thing was, how do I help commercial GCs scale without scaling headcount? Because it's such a competitive industry, and the industry win rate's like 20%, which is not cool, but that's what's acceptable. So
and 20% is good.
Yeah,
right? A lot of these guys that in commercial construction, when you're going and bidding on public tenders, it really is a volume game because there's not a lot of value add that you can sell there. No. Right? It's you have to meet your benchmark pre-qualification processes, but then it's very much like a race, what I say, or a race to the bottom, right? Yep. If you make it to that qualifying process, even us, we've put in bids and in the tender documents have said we are not obligated to take the lowest price. Well, lo and behold, every single time, 100% of the time, if they don't, if they have confidence in that lowest bid, they're going to take it. And that's what we've certainly found.
Yeah, 100%. That's how it is, because the big companies will keep bidding and they can afford to go lower, right? They can eat their profits for a year or two. The medium-sized guys, they can't. So the thing was, how do I help those people? Because that's what I worked for 16 years as predominantly commercial ICI construction, mid-sized companies. So I got to see all the things about it. And so I started out building Bid Command, the software to service these people and help them based on all of my suffering and pain points. Because construction it's awesome, but it's hard. Like, it's hard work. There's a lot of downfalls in it. So I built this software that essentially scraped the data from the bidding platforms, only pulled the qualified ones that were specific to that company, and then did the estimating, the scheduling, everything, the RFP, all of that stuff for them. So I started it as a SaaS company. I learned how to do SaaS. I joined Dan Martell's elite coaching program because of that. I learned a lot from him. But essentially, I got those 2 clients, and then Claude advanced so fast that it was easier to build a native Claude system for them to do specifically the scraping data part than it was to do it in my software. Because if they catch anyone doing AI into their bidding platforms, they actually have policies saying like, look, we don't allow this. So they'll kick you off. And then you got to rewrite the playwright script, and it's just a lot of work. So I said to those clients, like, hey, do you guys want to do like a Claude system of this? Because it's going to be a lot easier and I can help you grow more and not just pre-construction, but post-construction. So they were cool with it. And then ever since then, it's just been AI consulting for construction companies and implementing custom software. But yeah, you're right. Like, AI advances every day so fast that I feel bad for SaaS companies. Like, SaaS is mostly dead. The SaaS companies that are going to stick around, they're not all going to die, but they're going to pivot and they're going to change. And the industry is changing so fast that now in the position I'm in, where I'm just helping construction companies, I'm agnostic to tools, right? I'm not going to tell you you need this or you need that. It's whatever floats your boat, whatever suits your company. So I don't have that pressure anymore, right? And I can actually service the people that I want to help.
Yeah, it's wild. I have this conversation all the time with especially trades business owners, right? Is they want to integrate AI. They don't really know how it's going to work into their workflow. So most of them have experience, right? With whether it's using Claude for research, GPT for research, or just bouncing ideas back and forth, and that's kind of where it stops, right? And it's very few of them have gotten into the agentic world, where they're now building loops and workflows that are actually moving the needle. So they see that there's value there, but they don't know how to implement that into their business, because it's one thing to integrate it into the office environment and say, okay, this is in the office environment how we're going to use it, which might help out with things like sales and administrative tasks and whatever that is, basic reporting, right? Or communication cadence between team members, like that type of stuff you can move through and automate fairly quickly. But when you are dealing with the front lines, whether it's going to be project managers, site supers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, the guys that are on tools, and you're trying to make this push for them to adopt AI into their everyday life cycle and to help out with their everyday tasks, it's still kind of unclear as to which direction is really going to help them solve those problems. And that's what I think a lot of companies are trying to figure out right now. Yep. Is not only how do we implement AI into our back-end system where people that are in the office can do the thing, but what are going to be the most tactical solutions to bring to the front lines of our staff that are taking up the majority of our payroll, and they're actually the ones that are out there that are doing the work, that are building the things. How do we integrate AI to make their lives and their jobs easier so that they can focus on the things that only they are qualified to do, which is going to be running electrical cables or hooking up sinks and chasing leaks and that type of thing. But there is definitely a barrier there. And I think that we're still leaps and bounds away from making that practical, but I don't know, maybe something that I don't. And I imagine that's that there's a lot that that I don't.
So the funny thing is, a lot of people do say that. It's like, I don't think we're there yet, but we are. So for example, a residential home building company, I'll work with lots of those types of companies. And that's the question, like, how do I actually make this practical for my guys on site? And a good example would be site supervisors, right? They're going on site, they're having meetings with clients, with engineers, architects, and you have to record everything that's going on. And then sometimes you have a PM that's in the office and they have a separate meeting. So how do you cross-reference all that data? How do you actually make people accountable for all the things they need to do? Because I don't know about you, but in commercial, oftentimes you'll have different engineers on site and they'll say, okay, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. And then 2 months go by and be like, hey, like you said, you're going to do that thing. No, I never said that. Well, now what we do is we integrate Plod, which is a note taker, right? Mm-hmm. And you can just use your iPhone to voice memo. And so we get that voice memo of the whole site meeting, of the whole conversations, and then that gets uploaded into the system. And then if the PM has their separate meeting in their Zoom or whatever it is, takes all that, puts it in a report that's branded to the company that makes sense for everybody, and then distributes it to everyone. So that is insanely helpful already, because the site supervisors hate filling out the paperwork, hate doing all the stuff on site and then having to follow up that way. So then you can focus on what you're actually good at, right? So site supervisors are really good at being on site, leading the trades, doing the schedule, and you can take away the things that bog them down. And so the hard thing is, how do we connect all this in the background, right? Because a lot of things now is like, we'll make an automation for one thing, but then how do you make that talk to this and talk to that? So what I do is I build an entire infrastructure in the background, because you have your G Drive, your OneDrive, wherever you store all your drawings and your bids and all that kind of stuff. So if you can lay out, like, think of it as a set of construction drawings. If you go on site and you start to build with no drawings, like, you're going to mess up, right? If you have all the drawings done, then you know exactly what you're doing. So that's what I do. I organize it all in the back end. And then I build all of these automations into it so that all speaks together and there's no redundancy, because there's so much redundancy in construction right now.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned one thing that we have been doing for years and we've just started implementing, right? Is the tracking of information between parties.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's very simple. And we built out the first prototype for our company through ChatGPT. And this was probably 18 months ago, something like that. And it started working really well, but it was still a barrier for people to get used to, right? And traditionally, like, we will meet with our clients on site weekly, and the project managers will go over, whatever happens in the meeting. But then part of their operating procedure is to go back to the CRM system with all of the notes that they have taken, and then upload those notes, type those notes into the CRM system, and then hit send, and it saves it as a message in our program, so that there's a recap of everything that was discussed at that meeting. But still, to that point, like, there is human error, or notes that do get forgotten, or things that do get said that forget to be written down, and that has come back to bite us in the ass. And so that, when we talked about starting to record everything, when programs like we saw these first agents come out that were like Firefly Note Taker and stuff like that, that became a really powerful use case. Where there's still issues is going in and double checking, like, have to double check, and because some of those, some of the conversations still come out of context, but it does a pretty good job, right? It's going to be 90% accurate. And then you're going to go in and tweak that, final 10%. So it's still, maybe has some context, or it's maybe set in a friendlier tone, something along those lines. But it does a really good job of that. What we haven't been able to do yet, personally, in our company, is set up the note-taking infrastructure that we have and directly link that into our CRM system. So it's still a copy and paste exercise, but the technology is there, and it works really well. So that's certainly one thing that we have done, and we're actively working on to get better and better and better. And especially the conversations between different parties, right? If there's going to be one where you have, an engineer involved, a designer involved, a homeowner involved, project manager involved, and maybe a couple of trades, that's where things start to get kind of diluted when you get into recording. But it's incredible, the fact that it's even possible.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, so the thing about that, like Firefly or anything like that, is that it has its own AI rhythm of how to summarize notes. And you're right, like, lots of the time it can do a good job, but also it kind of can do a bad job. So what I do is, we get the transcription, right? And the transcription goes to the AI engine that I build. And the AI engine doesn't just say, like, I'm going to take what I think is important. It knows who your company is, what your goals are, what projects you have going on. So it can decipher that much easier. So it's not just generalized for you. It's actually like, Fred, the site supervisor, said this, Brandon, the PM, said that, Angela, the client, said this. It can know that. And it knows it 100%, which is nuts. But it knows that because the infrastructure on the back end is made out of your company's brain. So if it knows your goals, your team members, your pipeline, and it knows that note was from project A on 4th Street, then it knows exactly how to label all that, right? And make it applicable. And there's no copy and paste, because as soon as that's done recording, that goes into the AI operating system you already have. It deciphers it. It's already on your dashboard, and it's there to use. If you want to go and read the actual transcript, then you can, right? It's all up to you.
In construction, what is the main thing that people are trying to solve right now? When people come to you, is there an ongoing situation? Is there a common thread that continues to come up that needs to be solved?
Yeah, for sure. It's sales, like everything, right? So bidding,
all the hard stuff, right? Yeah. All the stuff that takes, like, time and energy and nuance. And I'll let you finish your sentence, and then I'll come back to my thought. But yeah, please proceed before I jump in here and cut you off.
Like, it's sales and then chaos, because when you're a small company, you need sales, right? And then you have the sales, but then it gets chaotic because you're disorganized. You have all these team members. And so it's those two things together. So for residential, a lot of time they advertise on Meta even on TikTok or whatever, right? So they need to automate that. And construction people are.
Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you, or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Aren't inherently amazing at tracking advertising.
Or tracking anything.
Yeah, exactly. So we make campaign trackers, like this is what you did for this meta campaign and what's it bringing in for revenue, what's it bringing in for followers, engagement, all that kind of stuff. And so you can get live analytics. So you have a socials dashboard as part of your mainframe, and you can know within it's live, right? But if you want to check it every 4 days, 7 days, whatever your cycle is, you know what to tweak, but not just knowing that something's not working, but it tells you exactly what's not working and how to optimize. And then for commercial, it's bidding, right? So how did they get as much bids out the door as suppliers? Like if you're a building product supplier, you're having to bid constantly, or for not even bid, but just do takeoffs, right? So how do you do all those takeoffs without having all that headache? Well, you build an AI engine for that, right?
Even with the bidding, like you can take a set of plans, for example, right? And you can upload those documents. And we've had some reasonable success in doing this and in helping generate proposals. And we've been playing around with, how well does this work? But what I've found is in the estimating process and the material takeoff process is there's still a very large disconnect between what AI can do and actually being accurate, because it doesn't take into consideration necessarily how things are going to be built, especially in the world of renovations and custom home building. In the commercial side, you typically will get a set of documents that's going to be, it's going to be 100 pages long. Like the drawings are going to be very, very detailed, right? You're going to get all of the architectural drawings, very detailed structural drawings. And there's more information there. So there's less left up to the builder to decide how things are going to be built. But in the residential world, there is a lot left up to interpretation, because drawings are typically less detailed. It will show like an open concept kitchen, but it won't necessarily tell you this is how many beams are going to be here. This is what's in the existing wall. This is what needs to be tied into based on this connection. Like there's just so much information that it doesn't have, where it has not been accurate. And so that's when I see, and we get inundated all the time by material takeoff companies that are just like poaching these or pushing these programs that they've built to streamline that process. And we have had very little accuracy we found with that, because there's been so much that's had to be left up to interpretation. Not only that, but also with pricing, right? And if you do all the front end work of putting into your management system or your CRM system of all of your price points, maybe it's going to be X amount of dollars per lineal foot of baseboard, that type of thing. You've done all this upfront work, but it doesn't do a great job of considering just the things that it doesn't know, that it doesn't know on paper, because it's not intuitive enough to know and have the experience that somebody on site has.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of troubles with that in the integration process. So we've gone back to now going back to the old school way, because we know that we can rely on understanding. We're now relying on experience and people having experience to decide how these things are going to be built. And then we know by the time we get to it, we've done all of the heavy lifting in the very beginning. Project manager knows exactly how it's going to be built, how it's going to be priced, so when we get into construction, we already know, like we've done that in the pre-construction process, and we've thought about all of these possible scenarios. So if they do arise, we're able to attack them because we've troubleshot all of these scenarios. And that's something that AI has yet to blow me away with as far as its ability to do.
Well, the thing is, AI will never inherently, now it will never inherently work for bidding for takeoffs because your company does things specifically the
Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
way you do things. You know what I mean? Like the bar is so much higher now for construction companies because every company uses AI. It's how they use AI. So that's why getting these one-off automations or these companies trying to, sell you something won't work for you because it's not custom fitted to you. So when you build the infrastructure on the back end and it knows how you bid the jobs based on your past 10, 20, 100 jobs, however many you have, and then it knows how you think, then it can bid these jobs with those insights because it knows your company. If it doesn't know your company, then there's no way it's going to get close to what you actually need it to be. And I know what you mean because tenant improvements, like you don't know what's in the walls, right? It's always different. You open it up, everything is completely different. You could do cost plus, you could do all in. Like there's so many ways to bid things. So once it's trained on your company specifically, then it's going to get to the point where you're actually impressed. But it's never going to get there if the infrastructure is not tied to the estimating part of it.
And one of the challenges here is it takes time for programs to really start to learn your company. And much like with bid command, right? There's this idea that if I'm going to be, if it's going to be something that's going to be built through Anthropic, for example, and we spend the time to teach Anthropic our entire company. And then all of a sudden something pivots and it's like, no, actually, this is not the program that we should be using. Everything should be done through Manus. Then it's like reteaching all of Manus to, or, pick your AI of choice to start learning the program. And then I think there's this idea of having to retrain all of your staff on this particular program as well. So the idea to go all in on one platform or another when that target continues to still move as far as the technology, as far as the compatibility, as far as the implementation and updates that are being made on a regular basis. There's not a lot of companies that I feel have confidence in one program or another, which is why they have difficulty pulling the trigger because there's still a lot of really unknown a really unknown future of what that looks like. Whereas in SaaS, for example, before AI existed, you knew that programs like Builder Trend or Square Takeoff, for example, like these are companies that you're going to be paying subscriptions to, but that they are going to be around, or the idea was like they're going to be around for a long time. They're going to have good customer support. You're going to be implementing this program. You're going to be using it for another 6-7 years because you're going to teach this company. But now all of a sudden, like technology has moved so quickly that you don't know if what you're using today is going to be the right thing to use tomorrow. So do we want to build our entire company around one platform? Or if we are building workflows through 7 or 8 different tools, if one tool faults and there's a whack update on, I was just having this conversation on another podcast, so there's a whack update on one of these platforms and it interferes with that workflow, then all of a sudden it's not doing it. Now you're not paying the person to do the thing, you're paying a person to go back and find the flaw in the workflow, and now all of a sudden you're not taking somebody that's trained on administrative work, you're finding somebody that's trained on understanding all of these different workflows and how fundamentally like the nuances of how they could affect one another if they do break, and then finding the fix for it and then rebuilding that workflow. Whereas you could just have that person putting in the information. And I'm big on AI. It's a big topic of conversation around here, but I do see this and I challenge and question where AI is going, because it's so involved. It's very complex. And when I say it's complex for most people. It's not so complex for you. But what is going to be the long-term play?
Yeah. So That is true. You don't want to rely on one tool. But the thing is, every construction company now is going to be AI dash whatever construction niche. So you have to think of it like that. And what I do is I build the framework of it. So I'm building out everything custom to the company, and then that's all backed up. So even if Anthropic goes away, if OpenAI goes away, it doesn't matter. What you built is already there. What it's plugging into for reasoning, like Fable or Opus or whatever it is, that's not going to affect you. No matter what happens to any of these companies, is not going to affect you because you need to have as much control as possible now because it's possible. You know, like 2 years ago, it cost millions of dollars to build a custom solution. Today, not even close to that. So if you can build a custom solution for your company that does not rely on these tools, then you're in control. And then if there's an update or something going wrong, it doesn't matter. You can make it. Like you can map out, go high level. You can map out job or whatever it is. You can make the things that you want in your own software, and then there's only one person to turn to if something's down, and that's you. So a lot of these construction companies now is they have someone in the company that's their AI construction guy. So I'll train that person, and then they'll take control of their own software because no one's going to be paying for these softwares anymore. They're going to have it all in house. And so if you do it that way, then you don't have to be fearful of AI advancing because you're just going to go with it. It's like seeing like the floating dock on the water. Like the waves come, the water come, but it's still there going. You know what I mean? So if you build it like that, then that just alleviates the concern.
Yeah, and we were having this conversation offline about different CRM systems and switching over to CRM systems, and this idea of like you can do that, whether that's going to be programs like Builder Trend or Job Tread or whatever program, Procore, whatever it is that you're interested in, but if you're going to be making the switch over there, it's almost to the point where you don't need that, and it would be less beneficial for you to do something like that versus building out your own company brain, your own company's like specific CRM system versus following the guidelines and being at the mercy of updates and limitations that these companies have made. And I hate to say it because they've spent millions and millions of dollars developing these systems that really do work, but there's always going to be 40% of that program that's going to be underutilized, or there's going to be customizations that you as a builder want to make because it's helps you in the specific business that you're doing in your unique niche or your unique window of revenue or whatever that is, or however many people you have on site at the time. And you're going to be underutilizing these programs. Whereas if you can customize it, then you can continue to compound on it and build in better solutions as you develop your operating procedures, as you make new hires, as you develop new roles and introduce new staff into the team. And as you grow, you can build this engine that is really customized to you. And if you decide that you are going to go and sell the company, then you sell that system with the company, and that can be leveraged really as an asset as well. So that can start to really compound enterprise value of your company if you build a really strong proprietary system or engine.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So many companies are thinking of an exit. All right, they have that 5-10 year plan, whatever it is. And so when you build this into your own company, a lot of times it's okay, you're going to sell your company, but we want the founder for 5 years, right? We want his brain. He's the reason this is working this well. But if you're building that into software and you can prove it through your last 5 years of business, then your exit's much cleaner, right? And now your evaluation's much higher because every construction company is going to use AI, but how they leverage it to get the maximum return is the difference. So if your company is leveraging it at the maximum, then it's going to be worth way more.
Yeah, no, 100%. But one of the things that people did not generally get into construction because they were good at computers. They were good at AI. They didn't want to sit behind a desk. And now it's almost become mandatory for some level that the founder or to hire somebody on to take on that role is going to be required. And I shouldn't say necessarily required, but a good idea if you are looking to grow and scale at the pace that other companies are going to grow and scale, to implement that position.
Yeah. So I think every construction company today should be making their own in-house AI. If you're a startup construction, just doing decks or whatever, I think it's stupid to spend money on any software right now. I think you should start it on your own, even if it's just like one little thing that's going to grow as the company grows. That's making an investment in the company. So whether people like it or not, every construction company is now AI and construction. That's part of how you form your company.
So if you were going to start a construction company today with the construction experience that you have and with the AI experience that you have to date, what is your first move? I'm gonna make this a little easier on you because first move is going to be to probably make some sales and like get a couple of customers as step one. But let's assume that we move past that point. We have a few customers, we have a few sales, we've proven ourselves that we can, do a couple of jobs and we can do them well, and the customers like the service that we offer. So say we're, 1 year into starting the business. What are we doing now? Like, how are we engineering this business that you're just starting from the very beginning? Is it starting to automate sales? Is it starting to automate administrative work? Like, where do we start engineering this from the ground up? And I understand that that's probably a heavy question. So
no, like if I had to start a construction company today, I would go on Claude and I would say, hey, I'm starting a construction company. I want to focus on critical path, which is sales, but I want to record as much as possible so that when I get to the point where I have sales, I can start to automate everything. And how do you do that? You just do everything in, like, let's say Cowork, for example, right? So you use Claude Cowork to store your file folders, your bid projects, your estimates, everything. So even if you're not getting it to autonomously do it for you, it now is building a database on how you do things. So then when you have 10 clients on and you need to hire a couple people and you need to expand, well, you have 1 year of history. And then you can say, hey, go look at my last year and tell me now how I can make autonomous systems for my company so I can scale 10x in the next 5 years, whatever it is. And it's going to do that for you. And then you can start focusing on building that system out. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Don't worry about it being broken up at first. The whole point is just to get started. So there's never been an easier time to start a construction company, but at the same time, a more confusing time to start a construction company because it can get confusing. It's easy to start. It's complex to build all of the systems to tie it together.
Yeah, and that's one thing, one component to it. There's so many other nuances. So we're talking AI and construction, but that's one thing for the founder to be able to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to engineer this workflow, and that's great. But that's great on paper, but there's no substance in it because AI is still not at a position where it's going to lead teams. It's going to show empathy. It's going to be able to have difficult conversations with customers or with staff or with business partners. Like, there's still a human element there that's going to be very involved, or to do any sort of critical thinking on site. But the way that I like to look at it is, here's these key pillars that are going to be handled with AI, and as those pillars get wider and wider and wider, it's going to narrow in that blank space. But that blank space in between those pillars is where you hire for and give people the flexibility to operate. And that's what you're hiring for, that experience. You're hiring for that skill set. And the hopefully the more that you pay those people, the more ground they can cover in between those pillars because they have more experience. Versus if the more you can sort of widen those pillars of AI, the less and less and less complexity is involved. So you can hire less skilled people to perform a lot of that work. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big advocate, as you know, for tradespeople, and I think that it's such a valuable career, and I push so many people to consider getting into trades businesses, but it's starting to feel a little less like you're just becoming a plumber. You're just becoming an electrician. You don't need just those skills. You also need to be able to work through AI, and you need to have a part of your brain that is going to be okay with that and is going to be able to want to be interested in that if you're going to grow, to be open to learning, open to feedback, and three, just know that even if you are the best electrician in the world, the best plumber in the world, the second best plumber in the world that is also proficient at AI will get hired 10 times out of 10 than the best plumber in the world that does not understand AI.
Well, that's the thing. So I get people messaging me every week from, they're taking their degree in project management, or they're engineer, architect, or plumbers, trades. And they always ask me the same question, like, I don't know what to do, because I spent all this money, time on this degree or apprenticeship, whatever it is. And I always have the same answer. It's just do what you're doing, but learn how to incorporate AI in that. Because if any construction company is asking who they should hire, I would say do not hire anyone unless they have their skill, plus they know how to leverage AI. And you don't need to be an expert, but you need to know how. Because in the past, I know you know this, is you'd have site supers that wouldn't even touch a computer, right? They didn't know how. They didn't know how to use Procore or whatever it is. And that's still kind of acceptable. But now AI is not just a new software, it's just a new way of life for construction. So it's not the same thing. It's completely changing the game. So you do have to know AI to a certain degree. So if you spend 4 years on an architecture degree or whatever it is, like of course that's valuable. But if you know how to streamline your workflow with AI, and the whole thing is, think of it as AI first task approach, but human first connection approach, right? You don't take humans out of the loop. The whole thing that I do is not like, let's fire people. Let's keep the people and let's maximize the returns we can get out of AI. So the people are going to love their jobs more, because they're not going to be bogged down by all the manual tasks. They're going to do what you hired them for, right? You hired them because they're a human, because they're really smart at the thing they do. So they can excel in that, and then AI can handle all the tasks.
Yeah, no, I love how you phrase that. AI for tasks, people for connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where are we with tasks at this point that should not be automated with AI, that people are trying to automate with AI? Is there anything that you are screaming at the rooftop saying, like, this is a bad idea, or we are not there yet?
I would say having an AI avatar in meetings,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Fair enough. That's probably an easy one, but fair enough. Like, some people don't like to sit at meetings, so it's like, I can just be over here and I'm just going to put an avatar of my face here and just listen on my behalf. No, fair enough. That makes sense.
And I have heard of companies where maybe you walk in and it's an AI greeting you, right? Yeah. Cool. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'd keep the warmth of the human connection when you walk in, right? Like, you can have your whole company automated by AI and no one could know a thing, because you're that good at being connected through face-to-face, through meetings, all that. And if you can have AI doing all those tasks, then you're less stressed. You can be more present for meeting your clients. You can be more present when you go home, right? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that for obvious reasons. And back to the connection piece, though, right? And that's such a big part, because with trades and home service businesses, they're very locally, geographically tied, right? Yeah. These are not businesses that, if you're starting a plumbing company, for example, you're not trying to reach a super, super wide audience if you're trying to service a local market of 40,000 people or 50,000 people. So where that starts to get really deep is in the connection that you build with customers, in the connection that you build with your community. Like, you're out at the hospital charity events, and you're on the board of directors at your local chamber of commerce or part of the business association, and you're getting out there because there's still a lot of connection that is required, or, well, maybe I shouldn't say required, but there's a lot of connection there that's still valued by so many people. And when I talk to contractors, I literally just had this conversation as a part of the couple of the clients there that I was speaking with yesterday, about building a really exceptional referral campaign and the importance of that. Right. And so a lot of contractors try and get very, very flashy with what they're doing because it's new, it's kind of cool, but it isn't something that's fundamentally always worked.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to take your eye off the ball of something that has always worked, that's helped you get your business to where it is now. But in that, and that being said, even a part of the campaign that we had built out together, that a lot of that notifications, it can all be automated through AI, which is acceptable. But what AI is not going to do is write your customers a handwritten note and drop a bottle of wine off at the end of the project, or it's not going to go around to the neighbors around the house that you're building and knock on the door and hand over a business card and say, hey, give me a call if anything goes wrong, if any trades are parking, or there's somebody speeding, or the job site has left a mess, or anything like that. Here's a face to a name. AI is not going to do that, but I can certainly set up reminders and triggers for that human being to go out and do those things.
Yep.
But that stuff still needs to happen. And I feel that for a long time, that will be an important part of the guerrilla marketing and these like grassroots tactics that build these trades businesses and are built on the backs of business owners that have integrity in their community, and they don't want to duck around the grocery stores and hide from people in their local market that they see, because they don't want to do it. But it's very easy to hide behind AI, which is it's good and it's bad, but I don't want people to lose that human connection where they're able to just hide behind a computer. But I feel that if they are spending all their time behind a computer, then they start losing that edge. They start losing their ability to have friendly conversations with people and stimulate that human connection. And I'm worried that some of that is going to get lost through the idea of efficiency.
Well, the thing is, that's never changed, and I don't think it ever will, is the companies that make it above and beyond are the ones that do that. They go out and they do the thing that goes the extra mile, like everything that you just said. So every company could be using AI the same, let's say, just as efficient, but the ones that do more than AI are the ones that are going to shine through. And the only difference is now you can have more time to do that kind of stuff, and you don't have to go back to the office. And like you say, spending time behind the computer. But the thing is, if everything's autonomously running, you really don't need to spend much time behind the computer. Like, you can have your morning brief sent to your phone. You can check your laptop. For example, I'm different. I'm not a construction company anymore, but I run my phone 90% of my life on my phone. Mm-hmm. So if you can get your construction company to 80% on your phone, you can be out all day meeting with clients and be updated on your entire team. And you could go above and beyond and be the ones that shine through, right? And keep the human connection that makes what your company's better. Because a lot of companies come to me and they're like, hey, like when I started Bid Command, I got, can you sign this NDA? I don't want people to know I'm using AI. Now it's a completely different story, but it's because I don't want my competitors to know. Everyone knows everyone's using AI now. And now the whole thing is, well, if you're using AI, what are you doing that's above and beyond the AI? Because it's how you do, like, what makes your company competitive? What makes your company special? That's not going to change. That's just going to be able to be 10x now because you have more time to do that stuff.
Yeah. Is there a point, and I asked this question to another business owner, and he owns multiple AI companies. And the question that I asked is, right now, with so much AI going on, and there is so many bad companies out there, right? And it's never been an easier time to throw up a flag as an AI consultant if you know a little bit, and if you are qualified at anything more so than somebody else, then you're qualified to teach them and get paid for that. But there's so much garbage out there that are being sold, and it's very hard to navigate which workflows are the right fit, which consultants are going to be the right fit, who actually has your best intentions in mind, because it is so new. How do you find and understand which system? Like, if you don't know AI at all and you don't really understand it, how do you look for the programs that you need to use? How do you invest in somebody that's going to build out these custom AIs? How do you find trust in that marketplace, in who it is that you are choosing to work with, and know that they understand what it is that you're trying to build, they have confidence in it, and they're not going to give you a bunch of shit that you don't need?
Yeah. Can I swear on here?
Yeah. I
Okay,
just
so
you bet.
fuck all those agencies. Honestly, they suck. What you need to look for is people that have deep rooted experience in your industry. That's it. If they have the deep roots in your construction industry, then leveraging AI should be much simpler than knowing AI but not knowing your industry. Because if I didn't know construction and I went into Claude and I was like, hey, I have Brandon Smith New Vision Projects as a client, tell me how to make AI solutions for the company. I could only bullshit my way to a certain degree. And then eventually everything's going to break because I don't understand the pain points. But because I have all those years of experience, I know what hardships are going to go through. I know where things are going to fail. I know where humans need to shine more. And that.
This episode is sponsored by New Vision Projects, and everybody has heard the horror stories that happen. They have a friend of a friend or a neighbor that's been renovating for years on end, or they've been building a home and it just hasn't gone the way that it needed to go. Budgets are blown through the roof, timelines, forget about them. New Vision Projects has an incredibly strong track record for over 15 years of working with customers, serving them at the highest level. If you are considering building or renovating, check them out on Instagram at New Vision Projects or at newvisionprojects.com. Building the homes you want with the confidence you need. New Vision has you covered. Let them show you why they're different. Back to the show.
That's what makes it work. So always look for the experience in your specific industry.
Yeah, that's an easy answer. I was hoping you were going to give me something a little more complicated, but it makes sense.
It's the truth. Like I can't go to the fashion industry and be like, okay, I'm going to build an AI operating system that's going to knock it out of the park and you're going to be better than every other fashion, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know the industry.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I want to give some quick wins to the listeners here, right? So what would you recommend as just easy tasks that if somebody has, let's say their skill level is prompting ChatGPT, they're able to ask Claude a few questions, they're able to build a few operating procedures. They haven't really created many workflows into the business because that's as far as they've gotten in their business. Yeah. And a lot of business owners that are at that, $500K to $1.5 million in revenue, even the companies that are, doing 10 million in revenue, this is all relatively new, but somebody that is looking for some quick wins that can help them through their day-to-day operations without spending a huge amount of money, what would you tell them to do? Is it hooking up a Claude Cowork account to email? Like, give us some quick wins and just really easy things to do.
Yeah. So when I get a Claude Cowork account, right? Claude, I download it on desktop and I would say, hey, I need you to ask me as many questions as possible to get to know my business in such a unique way that you can help me make everything as autonomous as possible. And I want you to make sure you understand what programs I currently use so we can make connections for that. That's all. And then it will start to ask you questions. You'll start to answer those questions. You'll start to connect all your systems. After you're done that, then you want to say, I need you to make a loop skill. Every 24 hours, I want you to look at our chat history, see what we've been doing and what we can make as a skill that can be done so that I have automations for these things and I don't need to come in here and prompt you again. If you just start with those two things, like you're ahead of 90% of the people.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a really easy thing to do.
It is. It's very easy.
Well, and that's the thing about AI is if you don't understand how to use AI, you can ask AI how to use AI and it will continue to show you how to use that.
Yeah.
And it will continue to get better and better. And it's getting more and more intuitive. Like if you've been messing around with Fathom or, even when Opus was first launched, like these programs are getting better and better and better, and they're so intuitive, right? So you ask the questions and it'll be like, all right, do you actually want me to build a workflow for this? Just give me the command. These are, another 5 things that I can do that I'm assuming you probably want me to do after this question that you asked me. Do you want me to do this? And it's as simple as clicking yes, please. And it will go and it will build that. It's like, what do you think about that? Would you want me to go and build this? And like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, you can go down that wormhole pretty quickly, which I think a lot of people find very exciting. Mm-hmm. but also overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they hit their token limit and they're like pulling out their credit card to go and spend another $80. And they're like, I don't know. Did I actually accomplish anything here? This is kind of cool, but I got to keep going. So here's some more money. And, they spend more and more money on tokens, which I think is great. I was talking with a builder down in the States, and back to this like 7-8 workflows, like touch points, workflows type thing. He's doing very little in revenue, total revenue, but he is deep in AI. And that's where he feels comfortable, right? He's sitting behind the computer and he's putting his stuff on. We're talking about all these workflows that he's building. And my question was, well, okay, well, how are you doing for sales? And like, why is your revenue so low? He's like, yeah, his answer was like, I honestly, I haven't been out making any sales. And I was like, okay, well, you got to get out from behind that computer and you got to go and like actually do the thing, because you get very comfortable all of a sudden, because it's so easy to start building these systems, and that becomes great. But building something and making money with something is very, very different.
Yep. So AI is not for everyone in their business. Like I have people that talk to me, even last week, this guy, he's starting out, he's doing really well, but it's just him. And I think he's building predominantly decks, around a certain area. So I had a conversation with him, and that's why I like that I'm not a SaaS company, because I'm not going to bullshit him. I said, you know what? You don't need AI. You need to focus on getting 6 months consecutively of your target net, not your revenue, your target net. After that, then you can start to say, where can I use AI? And if you're not organized, AI is not going to work. So you can't just inject AI into your company and everything is a mess in your file folder structure, because it's going to perform really horribly. So yeah, you don't always need AI, right? It depends on where you are on your journey. And a good thing too, in Claude, for example, you can do this in any AI system, is say, hey, every week I want you to go through my past week, and I want you to look at all the skills I've made and then color code them on red. These skills are not applicable anymore in my business. Yellow, these skills are applicable, but they could be optimized. And then green, these ones are working great. And then I want you to find solutions and get those solutions done for me. So by the time I read the report, they're already completed. So that way it's a living, breathing ecosystem, and it's cleaning up as you go. Because the skills you made at 1 million may not be what you need at 10 million, right?
Yeah, the skills. I mean, this is the thing, right? As you grow and you scale, I mean, it's no different than building operational procedures. Yep. Right? The SOPs that you build for a company at 1 million is going to be very different than the company at 3 million. It's going to be very different than a company at 6 and 10 million, and then to 20 million, right? Because you're integrating that. But where I have found AI has been exceptional at is making these updates. But you're right, you need to stay organized, because it will do a great job of building these things. And then I've never actually used like the red, yellow, green thing. I like that. I'm gonna go and use that on my own. But one of the things, like if you're using a program like Trainual, for example, right? It's and Trainual has made leaps and bounds in updating procedures and stuff, but it was always a thing where you housed these SOPs, training manuals, but anytime there was a change, you still had to go in and manually look through every operational procedure and know where these paths were, like from the sales manager to the project manager to the site super to the carpenter to the whoever trade on site, because there was sutures between each operational procedure, and if anything changed in one, it had to change across 8 or 9 different processes, and you'd have to go in there and make those updates manually and engineer, where did we put in these points, where did this go, and then there was a memo that had to go out to the company and say there was a change in this procedure and it affected these, and these were the updates,
which
and
sucks.
It just became brutal. But with AI, as you start uploading all of your processes and procedures, and it starts to get to know you, it can start to analyze this for you. And when you build a new procedure, then you ask it, okay, well, what else is going to be affected? Go in and change that, create a version 2, store it in Google Docs or wherever you want to store that. It will make those updates, and it will highlight the changes that it's made for you, so you can have a bit of a summary there, and decide if that's right or not. And then it will make the updates to all of those processes.
Yeah.
which is very cool. And then, you know, past that point, I haven't done it yet, but I mean, you can hook it up to the Slack account and, you know, just hit like notify my team, and it will notify the team in a Slack message or whatever it is that you use. So the technology is there, but like building an organizational structure in your company, being able to sit down and engineer how this is going to look to make sure that you're just not producing shit or AI slop and sending that out to a team is still a complex thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if it's trained on your company's brand, your company's tone, then the paragraphs, the sentences is going to be based on how you do it. So like design companies, for example, they have a brand board, or if you're doing a design build, you have like a identity, a mood board, whatever you want to call it, with the colors and all that stuff. So you'll have that for your business. Like, what are the fonts? What are the tones? What are the colors? So if it knows all of that, then everything it makes for you, it can get to 100% every single time. And the other thing is, you can say, hey, I want you to monitor when something doesn't go as planned in my business. So every week, every 2 days, whatever it is you want to do, so that when something doesn't go as planned and you pick up on that in our conversations or in any of my systems, I want you to then make an SOP for what went wrong so that it doesn't go wrong again. Because sometimes it's not a person problem, it's a process problem. You just didn't have a process documented for that. So now you can get those processes documented, lessons learned right away, versus like when I was at GC, I don't know about you, but like I had no time to go back and do that. I was always like, I should do a lessons learned thing and I should have a meeting and we should get better as a team. But I was worried about the next project and the next project. So now you can have AI do that for you and you're not letting anything slip through the cracks.
Yeah. And I think even at that, it's one thing to throw out a document, but this is, and people can learn if you learn that way, but there's something still very compelling about getting a group of people into a room and learning things together.
Yeah.
Right. And you can have AI help build out a framework for what it is that you want to teach. But if you were to take a document that was built in AI and you're running a team meeting and you decided, okay, I'm just going to email this out to everybody and this is what you need to learn, versus taking that, getting people into a room and drawing it on a whiteboard and getting them to ask questions and stay engaged with you. Like there's a wild difference in efficiency and adoption and interaction and just having the ability for that information to sink in. It's back to that connection thing.
Exactly.
That's going to be so much more powerful than that. And I don't want people to lose sight of the importance of that.
Yeah. And I think it's like, forget AI exists, right? Like if you're updating anything in your company, no one gives a fuck unless you make them. You know what I mean? Like so many times I get memos working for companies. Like here's a memo of this thing. Like I don't remember what it said. So if you can make the SOP, put it in a meeting agenda for whenever you have those meetings, the paperwork's done, but you still have that meeting about it, and then have that meeting recording everyone's inputs, and then that updates the SOP and you're communicating human to human, and that's what makes your company special, then do that, right? Like always keep the humans involved.
I'm really worried for a few people, like a few areas of the industry, right? Designers being one of them, right? Interior designers. And I was having a conversation with a realtor friend of mine, and even realtors to some degree, right, are really at risk until we hit that line where people decide. You know, I'll use a realtor example. Right now, you kind of need a real estate agent that's going to get out there. Like you don't need you want to buy a place, you hire a real estate agent, they go and they seek stuff out for you. That's not really something that's going to be necessary. But what you do need is them to sign documents for you. Okay. That's probably not going to be a thing pretty quickly. Like you can obviously, buy and sell and bring on a lawyer and do the thing, and that's all good. You don't want to get caught off guard, but it's getting so good that going through legal documents, drafting up legal documents, very, very easy. One of the arguments that I had, or I shouldn't say arguments, but one of the points that he had brought up was one of the most difficult tasks as a realtor is logistical planning. Because if you have one client that is selling their house, but then they need, 60 days to stay, and there's some overlap in, in closing and inspections, and somebody's going to be moving in and you need to move. And then this party over here needs to also find a place to stay, and like shifting them around and finding those is what he says really like a realtor is needed for at this point, because that's a really difficult thing to do. But pretty quickly, that's not going to be a thing. Like an AI real estate agent will understand the problems, and it will make the calls, and it will set up the terms, and it will write the
Already
proposals
happening.
for short-term rentals. Like that is a thing that is going to happen in the trades industry. There's a few areas that I question whether or not they're going to be relevant. Now, design being one of them, and I think that all great designers will be around, but these are designers that people want to work with because they want to be proud of a brand and Webb design, right? I went out, I've been really wanting to build this house. I've been really wanting to renovate my home, and I really want a brand and Webb design. I like his work. I want to see that happen. I think there's a lot of mid-tier designers that don't have that kind of credibility that are going to get wiped out pretty quickly, because that technology for design is moving so fast that a lot of those companies are going to get wiped out, or they're really going to struggle in the age of technology. Architecture and engineering, we're still at a point where, as human beings, we have made the decision that certain buildings require a human being to stamp or to sign off on.
Yeah.
Right. If we're building a Part 3 building or anything over, 6 stories or, 5 units, I think anything over 5 units or 6 units requires an architect to sign off on it. That's because we as human beings have made the choice that this is that benchmark, that we are drawing a line in the sand and saying you need to have gone to school for a certain amount of time to stamp this and sign off on it. But that's us as human beings making that decision. As soon as we open it up and say, actually, the AI can do this job just as well as the architect, it can fundamentally understand these bearing walls and understands the building code enough that it can put together structural design, and we decide that is going to be okay, and we don't actually need a red stamp on a piece of paper, then all of a sudden engineering firms are like, why did we go to school for 6 years, 7 years to go and do this? But that's where we need to, as humanity, understand what are we going to allow AI to do, not just what is it capable of doing and where are we going to take it as far as a possibility, but what are we going to allow it to do? And I think that line in the sand keeps getting pushed further and further and further and further and further.
Yep.
And there's definitely people that are going to get caught up as collateral damage.
There's a ton. Like, that's just the truth. Like, there's companies I work with that have 20 employees. None of them are going to be laid off, right? There's other companies that have 600 employees. Do they need 100 estimators after? They don't. That's just the truth. And with engineers and architects, like, look at telemedicine. Like, or even online, you can get prescription Adderall, weight loss pills, Wegovy, whatever. That was not a thing 20 years ago. So now what's going to happen is the AI makes code compliant drawings, structurally compliant drawings, and then the engineer on the other side just reviews it and stamps it and says you're good to go. And it's an online service.
I have a fun story. So right above where we're recording right now, a couple stories up, there's a notary. And I have in commercial construction, we have, not so much in residential construction, but certainly in commercial construction, for us to get paid, we need to get a statutory declaration stamped, which says we've paid our trades. We're not going to, lien the property, et cetera. So I went up there and I used to get him to fill everything out for me, fill out the paperwork, and then stamp it. And then I would, upload that, send it to our clients, whatever. And then at some point, because I was going up there so much, he just said, here, I'll give you a bunch of blank copies. Just, just fill it out for me and you can save me some time.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I said, well, if I'm filling out this paper and I'm doing all this work, are you going to charge me less? And he's like, you don't pay me to fill out paperwork. You pay for my stamp.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. All right, fair enough. I guess I can fill this stuff out for you. It's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
But until we decide that we don't actually need that stamp because all that paperwork is compliant, then he will have a job. But once we say that stamp is kind of just ink on paper that doesn't really mean much because it's compliant one way or another, all of a sudden becomes kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, like I view that as more of a longer game plan. I think first, like look at design builds. How often I did this, and you probably did this too, is if you're design building commercial or residential, sometimes you'll create your own structural rendering or your architectural rendering, and then you'll get maybe you have a good relationship with a structural engineer, and you'll say, we did this tie-in or this pad the same way in the past 3 projects, so I just did this design, like take a look. Yeah, looks good, stamps. So it's already happening, right? It's just going to happen in a different way. And then what you're talking about of us deciding, well, we don't need that stamp. I don't know when that's going to happen because I think it's liability, right? It is a lot of like the whole thing is liability.
That's just it, right? But it is liability, and that's where everybody keeps pushing the ball further and further down the road. Is they want somebody else to be liable for whatever it is that you're building, right? Especially in construction. So building inspectors, for example, like perfect example, we had an architect on a plan, and there was no engineering involved because everything was designed to fit within the span tables as per code.
Yeah,
cool. The inspectors, they wouldn't even look at that. They're like, no, we're not going to go into the code books and the span tables and take a look at this. That's not our job. We want an engineer on this to sign off on it. Why? Because they don't want to go through the headache of the research for one, but they don't want to have any sort of liability if something happens. So if for whatever reason they sign off on it, the liability is on them. Whereas if they go and they get an engineer to sign off on that, they eliminate any accountability at all whatsoever. So most building inspectors, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what we're building. Most of them are going to say, no, we want an engineer, which is crazy because 15 years ago, we would build the exact same thing and never have any issues with this at all whatsoever. But we've gotten into this state of, not as much here in Canada, but certainly down in the States, it's like a very litigious, construction becomes a very litigious game. We just built a big restaurant and brewery up in Squamish, and it was we were working as a GC for the developer, and the developer's legal team was based out of Dallas, Texas. And so the contract that we got back was, 83 pages long with, 30 pages of supplementary conditions. And their assumption is that everybody is going to sue everybody. Like the contract that came back was absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, that's a story for another time. My point being is even with AI and moving this forward, there's still that line in the sand that says, okay, well, who is going to be accountable to this? Because you're not going to be able to hold Anthropic accountable. You're not going to be able to hold Manus accountable if it messes something up. So then that falls back on the contractor or the human being because they're the only ones that have something really at stake.
Yeah. And like even Anthropic, like people probably don't read the user agreements, but it says like, do not hold us accountable, right? AI can hallucinate or whatever. And like I know lawyers in Australia right now that are actively working on their legislator for all these new rules because all these companies out there did not give permission for Anthropic or OpenAI to go on their sites, get their data, and then they make money from it, but they don't make any money. So I think we'll see a lot of laws and bylaws coming, but I also think we won't, because if they make a law for one thing, then that's going to apply to these big corporations, and they don't want roadblocks, right? it's the kind of like the Wild West right now, to be honest.
It's very much the Wild West out there. Well, we saw that, pretty quickly with Fathom, right? Like it was released for 48 hours or something. It was a pretty cool to use. I popped up there. I saw the update. I used it pretty quickly, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's doing a great job. 48 hours later, it was gone, or a couple days later, it was gone, and all of a sudden couldn't use it. And then it came out. I was like, no, this needs to be looked at under a microscope, because this in the wrong hands is way too powerful as it is. So there's no way that we can allow all of these functions. And that's what I mean. Like the technology is there, but we as a human race are still deciding what is appropriate, what is the world ready for, and trying to analyze intentions of human beings and how we're going to use this power. And if it does get into the wrong hands, how are we going to put up the safeguards to ensure that the world doesn't fall apart?
And I don't think you can anymore, because now it's like, what was that? The guy that ran like the fastest, like 1 minute mile, or whatever, right? Once he did that, it's like, oh, it's possible. I'm going to do that now. So now people know how to make their own AI. I can make my own like large language processing model. So how can you do that? You can't anymore. Someone could just make their own and then bypass all the other securities. So I don't think there's ever going to be a way to stop it. I think it's too late.
Yeah, I know. I tend to agree on this. I mean, it very much is the wild west out there, and even the people that are at the forefront of AI. And one thing that I want people to understand, if they're listening to this, and this is a very AI heavy episode, like that was what we were meant to talk about. But people that are there, if you are confused right now with AI and you are a little lost, I want you to understand that even the people that are very heavily involved with AI are still confused.
Yeah.
And still, like, things are moving so fast that even they can't necessarily predict accurately what this landscape is going to look like in 3 to 5 years, let alone, 10 to 15 years. I think projecting out further, probably 30, 40 years is probably easier to predict at a wider landscape than like the micro landscape of 24 months.
Yeah. No, I was just meeting someone yesterday and they're asking me really insightful questions and I really appreciate it. But the truth is, like, I don't fucking know. Like, I'm not a philosopher. I don't sit here and think like, what's this going to do? Like, I am just leveraging it because it's providing me a certain type of life, a certain occupation that I enjoy. I get to meet with you, people that are cool. And I've never had more human connection, even though my whole job is AI, which is the crazy thing.
Yeah. Well, what you've done specifically is you've built a business in consulting for a thing which requires you to still go out and do the thing. Like you're down here, we're sitting, we're podcasting. This is pretty cool, but your business is fundamentally, AI. But like you said, you've built your entire business to run primarily off of your phone. So that's, it's pretty wild. I believe heavily in just technology in general. I love seeing advancements in any sort of industry. It's very cool to see. AI is certainly moving at a pace. I'm very interested to see where it goes. I encourage anybody that is in a trades business that is getting involved in construction to follow your advice of AI first. AI plus electrical company, AI plus plumbing company. Yeah. Because the ones that do are going to have a leg up on the ones that don't. And if it's not AI, it's going to be something else. But right now, this is where we're at. This is the world. This is what's in front of us. And you need to learn how to utilize and leverage the opportunity that is in front of you. Even if you hate the idea of it, it doesn't stop the fact that it's here. It's here for good. And you need to use it to your advantage because your competitors certainly are.
Yeah, 100%. And don't wait. like I would say, don't wait. Everyone's like, I don't know what's going to change. Like it's always going to change. Do not wait to get into AI. You're going to get beaten. Many companies are going to go away like never before. And you're going to stand little to no chance the longer that you wait to implement AI into your company.
Which companies do you, and back to one of my original questions, I mentioned design being, fundamentally in my mind more at risk than a lot of other areas in construction. But are there other businesses, other realms that you feel are more at risk from being eliminated versus being a safer trade to maybe get into? Are there other businesses that you see that are more at risk from the the downside of being potentially wiped out by AI?
Like in construction or outside?
In construction specifically.
Yeah, I mean suppliers. Like how often do you have to call the guy at the shop and have a chat with him, and which is usually a cool thing to do, but you're not going to need to do that anymore. They're going to be tied into their system. You're going to tie into their system. Your AI agent's going to talk to their AI agent. You're going to know how much product they have on hand. You're not going to need to do any of that anymore. So giant supply markets like that, like they're going to have way less humans involved. Like they're the most at risk in the construction industry at the moment, for sure.
That's actually interesting insight. And I like that. To be perfectly honest, as much as you say it's cool, it's also kind of frustrating. Like perfect example, we had ordered some doors from a door supplier for a home that we're building, and we were told the doors are going to go out on this day, and then they're going to go to the finisher is going to stain them, etc. And then we followed up with the staining company, and they're like, no, we haven't received any doors at all. We call back the door. Oh yeah, no, actually it's going to be going out today. It just left this afternoon, which was on Friday. Called on Tuesday because just had a hunch that maybe something wasn't right. We didn't get confirmation from the staining company, and they, then we called back and they said, yeah, no, we haven't seen any doors yet. We haven't seen it. So it's like, why we're talking to this human being that's either blatantly lied or they don't have any sort of concept of where their material is. But having the ability to know, just like, yes, in fact, the product has left. We're not leaving that up to chance. This is just like, okay, there's a tagging system involved, and we can get notification about our critical materials, and the schedule that it's on would be wildly helpful.
Yeah, and that's going to happen. That's already happening. I'm helping some supply companies do that because there's no need to call the guy. And you're right. Like sometimes you have a good relationship with the person. Sometimes it's an idiot on the phone that doesn't know what they're doing and does not care about your project whatsoever. And you have to make 10 phone calls to track down one piece of hardware, right? And then other thing that's going to happen and is already happening is mergers and acquisitions. So you see these companies that buy HVAC, plumbing, electrical companies, they group it together, they sell it for 50 million, 100 million, whatever it is. So now instead of having to go and do your due diligence and go through all their paperwork, all it is like, okay, Ajax Plumbing has their AI operating agent that knows everything about the company. And then New Vision Projects has their AI operating. And so if they're going to buy Ajax Plumbing, their AI agents are going to talk to each other, and they're going to say, okay, does this mesh well together? Does it work and doesn't align with what I'm trying to do? If it does, then cool, we're going to buy a company. It's going to speedline that process like insane.
Interesting. Man, it's been fun having you on the podcast, man. I appreciate you.
Cool.
I appreciate you stopping by. Any final words that you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
I would say anyone watching, just DM me, Brandon Webb AI, DM me New Vision. So I know you watch the podcast, and I'm happy to jump on a 30-minute call. No sales pressure. Just evaluate where you are right now. It doesn't matter how big or small your company is, and I do my best to help you out. My whole mission is to empower people in the industry through leveraging AI, because I know how difficult it can be, and that's all I want to do.
AI is, I don't think people are going to listen to AI podcasts all that often. Although I've seen, like, I saw one post of a gentleman. He's like, he's just been creating his own podcast that he's been listening to through different like mentors. Take the best from John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, like pull this and build me a podcast based on what it is that you know about me and all of the information that you have, make it creative, make a story, whatever. And he was saying that was a great podcast that he listened to, which is a pretty powerful thing. Cool. But this is way cooler, man.
Yeah.
Being able to sit down here with you, listen, chop it up, get real feedback. I hope AI does not take away our ability to podcast and connect as human beings.
Not in the near future, at least.
All right. Well, and to everybody out there that is still with us, as always, here rooting for you to win. Till next time, stay blessed. Rock and roll. Peace. Let's go.